I have, you have, we have, they have, he has, she has, it has. I do, you do, we do, they do, he does, she does, it does. I say, you say, we say, they say, he says, she says, it says. I get, you get, we get, they get, he gets, she gets, it gets. I make, you make, we make, they make, he makes, she makes, it makes. I go, you go, we go, they go, he goes, she goes, it goes. I see, you see, we see, they see, he sees, she sees, it sees. I know, you know, we know, they know, he knows, she knows, it knows. I take, you take, we take, they take, he takes, she takes, it takes. I think, you think, we think, they think, he thinks, she thinks, it thinks. I come, you come, we come, they come, he comes, she comes, it comes. I give, you give, we give, they give, he gives, she gives, it gives. I look, you look, we look, they look, he looks, she looks, it looks. I use, you use, we use, they use, he uses, she uses, it uses. I find, you find, we find, they find, he finds, she finds, it finds. I want, you want, we want, they want, he wants, she wants, it wants. I tell, you tell, we tell, they tell, he tells, she tells, it tells. I put, you put, we put, they put, he puts, she puts, it puts. I mean, you mean, we mean, they mean, he means, she means, it means. I become, you become, we become, they become, he becomes, she becomes, it becomes. I leave, you leave, we leave, they leave, he leaves, she leaves, it leaves. I work, you work, we work, they work, he works, she works, it works. I need, you need, we need, they need, he needs, she needs, it needs. I feel, you feel, we feel, they feel, he feels, she feels, it feels. I seem, you seem, we seem, they seem, he seems, she seems, it seems. I ask, you ask, we ask, they ask, he asks, she asks, it asks. I show, you show, we show, they show, he shows, she shows, it shows. I try, you try, we try, they try, he tries, she tries, it tries. I call, you call, we call, they call, he calls, she calls, it calls. I don't have, you don't have, we don't have, they don't have, he doesn't have, she doesn't have, it doesn't have. I don't do, you don't do, we don't do, they don't do, he doesn't do, she doesn't do, it doesn't do. I don't say, you don't say, we don't say, they don't say, he doesn't say, she doesn't say, it doesn't say. I don't get, you don't get, we don't get, they don't get, he doesn't get, she doesn't get, it doesn't get. I don't make, you don't make, we don't make, they don't make, he doesn't make, she doesn't make, it doesn't make. I don't go, you don't go, we don't go, they don't go, he doesn't go, she doesn't go, it doesn't go. I don't see, you don't see, we don't see, they don't see, he doesn't see, she doesn't see, it doesn't see. I don't know, you don't know, we don't know, they don't know, he doesn't know, she doesn't know, it doesn't know. I don't take, you don't take, we don't take, they don't take, he doesn't take, she doesn't take, it doesn't take. I don't think, you don't think, we don't think, they don't think, he doesn't think, she doesn't think, it doesn't think. I don't come, you don't come, we don't come, they don't come, he doesn't come, she doesn't come. I don't give, you don't give, we don't give, they don't give, he doesn't give, she doesn't give. I don't look, you don't look, we don't look, they don't look, he doesn't look, she doesn't look. I don't use, you don't use, we don't use, they don't use, he doesn't use, she doesn't use. I don't find, you don't find, we don't find, they don't find, he doesn't find, she doesn't find, it doesn't find. I don't want, you don't want, we don't want, they don't want, he doesn't want, she doesn't want, it doesn't want. I don't tell, you don't tell, we don't tell, they don't tell, he doesn't tell, she doesn't tell. I don't put, you don't put, we don't put, they don't put, he doesn't put, she doesn't put. I don't mean, you don't mean, we don't mean, they don't mean, he doesn't mean, she doesn't mean. I don't become, you don't become, we don't become, they don't become, he doesn't become, she doesn't become. I don't leave, you don't leave, we don't leave, they don't leave, he doesn't leave, she doesn't leave. I don't work, you don't work, we don't work, they don't work, he doesn't work, she doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't need, you don't need, we don't need, they don't need, he doesn't need, she doesn't need, it doesn't need. I don't feel, you don't feel, we don't feel, they don't feel, he doesn't feel, she doesn't feel, it doesn't feel. I don't seem, you don't seem, we don't seem, they don't seem, he doesn't seem, she doesn't seem, it doesn't seem. I don't ask, you don't ask, we don't ask, they don't ask, he doesn't ask, she doesn't ask. I don't show, you don't show, we don't show, they don't show, he doesn't show, she doesn't show, I don't try, you don't try, we don't try, they don't try, he doesn't try, she doesn't try, I don't call, you don't call, we don't call, they don't call, he doesn't call, she doesn't call, it doesn't call. Do I have? Do you have? Do we have? Do they have? Does he have? Does she have? Does it have? Do I do? Do you do? Do we do? Do they do? Does he do? Does she do? Does it do? Do I say? Do you say? Do we say? Do they say? Does he say? Does she say? Does it say? Do I get? Do you get? Do we get? Do they get? Does he get? Does she get? Does it get? Do I make? Do you make? Do we make? Do they make? Does he make? Does she make? Do I go? Do you go? Do we go? Do they go? Does he go? Does she go? Does it go? Do I see? Do you see? Do we see? Do they see? Does he see? Does she see? Does it see? Do I know? Do you know? Do we know? Do they know? Does he know? Does she know? Do I take? Do you take? Do we take? Do they take? Does he take? Does she take? Do I think? Do you think? Do we think? Do they think? Does he think? Does she think? Do I come? Do you come? Do we come? Do they come? Does he come? Does she come? Do I give? Do you give? Do we give? Do they give? Does he give? Does she give? Do I look? Do you look? Do we look? Do they look? Does he look? Does she look? Do I use? Do you use? Do we use? Do they use? Does he use? Does she use? Does it use? Do I find? Do you find? Do we find? Do they find? Does he find? Does she find? Do I want? Do you want? Do we want? Do they want? Does he want? Does she want? Do I tell? Do you tell? Do we tell? Do they tell? Does he tell? Does she tell? Do I put? Do you put? Do we put? Do they put? Does he put? Does she put? Does it put? Do I mean? Do you mean? Do we mean? Do they mean? Does he mean? Does she mean? Do I become? Do you become? Do we become? Do they become? Does he become? Does she become? Does it become? Do I leave? Do you leave? Do we leave? Do they leave? Does he leave? Does she leave? Do I work? Do you work? Do we work? Do they work? Does he work? Does she work? Do I need? Do you need? Do we need? Do they need? Does he need? Does she need? Do I feel? Do you feel? Do we feel? Do they feel? Does he feel? Does she feel? Do I seem? Do you seem? Do we seem? Do they seem? Does he seem? Does she seem? Do I ask? Do you ask? Do we ask? Do they ask? Does he ask? Does she ask? Does it ask? Do I show? Do you show? Do we show? Do they show? does he show, does she show, do I try, do you try, do we try, do they try, does he try, does she try, does it try, do I call, do you call, do we call, do they call, does he call, does she call. Don't I have, don't you have, don't we have, don't they have, doesn't he have, doesn't she have, don't I do, don't you do, don't we do, don't they do, doesn't he do, doesn't she do, don't I say, don't you say, don't we say, don't they say, doesn't he say, doesn't she say, doesn't it say. Don't I get, don't you get, don't we get, don't they get, doesn't he get, doesn't she get, doesn't it get. Don't I make, don't you make, don't we make, don't they make, doesn't he make, doesn't she make. Don't I go, don't you go, don't we go, don't they go, doesn't he go, doesn't she go. Don't I see, don't you see, don't we see, don't they see, doesn't he see, doesn't she see, doesn't it see. Don't I know, don't you know, don't we know, don't they know, doesn't he know, doesn't she know. Don't I take, don't you take, don't we take, don't they take, doesn't he take, doesn't she take. Don't I think, don't you think, don't we think, don't they think, doesn't he think, doesn't she think. Don't I come, don't you come, don't we come, don't they come, doesn't he come, doesn't she come. Don't I give, don't you give, don't we give, don't they give, doesn't he give, doesn't she give. Don't I look, don't you look, don't we look, don't they look, doesn't he look, doesn't she look. Don't I use, don't you use, don't we use, don't they use, doesn't he use, doesn't she use, doesn't it use. Don't I find, don't you find, don't we find, don't they find, doesn't he find, doesn't she find. Don't I want, don't you want, don't we want, don't they want, doesn't he want, doesn't she want. Don't I tell, don't you tell, don't we tell, don't they tell, doesn't he tell, doesn't she tell. Don't I put, don't you put, don't we put, don't they put, doesn't he put, doesn't she put, doesn't it put. Don't I mean, don't you mean, don't we mean, don't they mean, doesn't he mean, doesn't she mean. Don't I become, don't you become, don't we become, don't they become, doesn't he become, doesn't she become, doesn't it become. Don't I leave, don't you leave, don't we leave, don't they leave, doesn't he leave, doesn't she leave. Don't I work, don't you work, don't we work, don't they work, doesn't he work, doesn't she work. Don't I need, don't you need, don't we need, don't they need, doesn't he need, doesn't she need. Don't I feel, don't you feel, don't we feel, don't they feel, doesn't he feel, doesn't she feel. Don't I seem, don't you seem, don't we seem, don't they seem, doesn't he seem, doesn't she seem. Don't I ask, don't you ask, don't we ask, don't they ask, doesn't he ask, doesn't she ask. doesn't it ask? Don't I show, don't you show, don't we show, don't they show, doesn't he show, doesn't she show, don't I try, don't you try, don't we try, don't they try, doesn't he try, doesn't she try, doesn't it try? Don't I call, don't you call, don't we call, don't they call, doesn't he call, doesn't she call,